Okay, let's dive into something truly intriguing today. We're exploring the core philosophy behind this fascinating new show called Funky Minds, Unconventional Thoughts and Insights. Huh. Our source material for this deep dive, well, it comes from excerpts of their introductory episode. Gives us a peek into their unique approach. And our mission here, it isn't just to, review another show. It's really to extract the most important nuggets about what it actually means to have a funky mind. And maybe how adopting that mindset can genuinely challenge your own conventional thinking, maybe lead to surprising insights. So get ready, because we're going to unpack some of the mind-bending questions this show promises to tackle, like why do ads work on some people and not others, that kind of thing, or even what does it even mean to trust information in the age of AI? Big questions.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how clearly Funky Minds defines its core concept right from the start. They tell us pretty directly that a funky mind is one that doesn't just follow the usual patterns. It's explicitly for people who think differently, people who ask unexpected questions, and crucially, who don't settle for surface-level answers. This isn't just about being quirky, right? It seems to be about actively deconstructing assumptions. Like, for example, if you're stuck on a problem, a funky mind might immediately ask, okay, what if the premise I'm working with is just wrong? Or maybe, what if the solution lies in a totally unrelated field? That kind of reframing, I think, is the real nugget of funky thinking they're getting at. They're also setting a really clear expectation for you, the listener, that this isn't your typical educational content. They say it explicitly, not a lecture or a TED Talk. But instead, it's a mix of curiosity, thought experiments, and maybe even a little laughter.
Oh,
It really does sound like an engaging journey they're proposing.
absolutely. And what really caught my attention were the kinds of varied and honestly surprising questions they're planning to tackle. They ask things like, why do ads work on some people and not others? And what really drives people to buy things?
Yeah.
That one about ads, it really resonated with me just the other day. I was scrolling online, saw an ad for something I literally just thought about, hadn't searched for it or anything. It felt incredibly targeted, almost, well, unsettling. But it also made me wonder, why did that specific ad get through my filter when 1,000 others just bounce off?
Right, the filter question.
Exactly. And they also get into stuff like, how do algorithms shape what we think we want? And where does personal choice end and culture begin? That's a deep one. And then they throw in some even more sort of unconventional ones, like, why do some people get more creative in busy cities? Interesting. Or even, why does the color red boost sales? Huh.
Little psychological nudges.
Yeah. And the big one they highlight for right now is, in the age of AI, what does it even mean to trust information? They really emphasize how the show aims to look at like one idea and look at it from multiple angles. They specifically mention bringing in perspectives from sociology, psychology, marketing, tech, even personal stories. They really seem to believe that variety is absolutely key to keeping a funky mind alive.
That's a fantastic point about the multiple angles, because while variety is crucial, true insight often comes from synthesizing those angles, not just sort of listing them out like a menu. I'd be curious to see how Funky Minds plans to maybe guide listeners through that synthesis process, rather than just presenting, like you said, a buffet of perspectives. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's also really important to understand their methodology, especially concerning their use of AI. The source explains that the show is built with the help of AI for things like idea generation, research, and structure. But, and this is crucial, they make it really clear that every piece is checked, shaped, and guided by real human thought.
That's a really important clarification.
It is. It directly addresses any potential listener concerns you might have about purely AI-generated content. They clarify their commitment to a factual basis. They state that when they say research shows, they actually mean it, and that stories are either lived, read, or analyzed. So grounded in something real. And what's particularly relatable, I think, is that the hosts themselves admit they learn something new in every deep dive themselves. Emphasizing that for them, too, it's a kind of mental adventure.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, is often how we feel when we're digging into these sources, isn't it? Truly discovering things as we go along.
Absolutely. Keeps it fresh for us, too. So, okay, what does all this mean for you, the listener, tuning in? Well, Funky Minds makes a pretty direct appeal. They say if you're looking for a show that stretches your brain, challenges your assumptions, and maybe even makes you smile, then this show might be, right up your alley. But it makes me wonder, though, does a show that explicitly defines funky thinking inadvertently make it conventional?
Interesting thought.
Like, is there a risk of creating a new right way to think unconventionally? Or Or is the very act of trying to define it part of the whole challenge itself? What do you think?
That really raises an important question, not just about the show, but for all of us, right? The concept of a funky mind, it isn't just about this specific show. It's about embracing a way of thinking that actively seeks out diverse perspectives and, crucially, isn't afraid to ask those unusual, maybe even weird questions. So consider how actively applying this multi-angle approach in your own thinking, looking beyond the surface, questioning your initial assumptions. How could that potentially profoundly enrich your understanding of complex topics, whether that's in your daily life or, at work? It's really about moving from just consuming information passively to truly engaging with it, wrestling with it a bit.
Yeah, wrestling with it. I like that. Okay, so as we wrap up this particular deep dive, Funky Minds is already teasing their next discussion. They mentioned they're diving into one of the strangest human behaviors. Okay, intrigued already. And how a simple number changed the world of marketing forever.
Ooh, cryptic.
Right, makes you want to know what that number is. So for you, the listener, let's end with this provocative thought to chew on. In what areas of your own life, or maybe your learning, could you benefit most from consciously adopting that funky mind approach? Deliberately challenging assumptions, looking at things from a truly unconventional angle. Where could that shake things up for you? Stay curious, stay funky,